I've been having a great time this week in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, pretty much exclusively flying the fantastic JustFlight RJ Professional, which is incredible. And it occurred to me, I've not done a cold and dark quick start guide for a little while, and there's an Avrojet sized gap on the channel, so that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're in the RJ100, so the slightly longer variant, in this cool retro Aegean livery for a shuttle service from here in Corfu over to Athens. And it's such a fun plane to start up. It's very hands-on, loads of buttons and switches, which is what we like, isn't it? The more buttons to click, the better. So yeah, I'll show you guys how to get the plane powered up, initialise everything for a flight, and then we'll get pushed back and go through the engine startup procedure as well, which is also quite unique. So there's plenty to do. Let's hop on board and get started. Okay, so here we are in the flight deck then, completely cold and dark. So what we're going to do first of all is go overhead, and we're going to switch our nav lights on, just so that when the batteries go on, our ground crew know the plane is active. So then we're going to go batteries 1 and 2 on, and we can check the DC voltage for both batteries by turning this little switch here. That's looking good for both battery 1 and 2. And then a little further down we can switch our ground power on. So we are now powered up from the GPU. A little further overhead we can now switch our yaw damper 1 and 2 on. Autopilot 1 and 2 and avionics 1 and 2 can go on, and then we're going to switch our ground ignition to A, and then we're going to put our anti-skid on, and our yellow and green lift spoilers can go on. So from here we're going to go down to the first officer's side and switch our IRSs to align on both sides, and whilst that's working away we can head over to the EFB and start loading the aircraft for our flight. So if we click on the OFP button, I can import my SimBrief flight plan, which shows there from Corfu over to Athens. So that's all correct. And then if we click on the aircraft tab, it asks us if we want to import the SimBrief data. So we'll click that, and then we can click start refueling. We'll do it instantly as it's a quick start guide. So we'll instantly refuel. So that's good, and we'll do the same for our boarding. So we'll press start boarding and do that instantly as well. And that should trigger a cabin crew announcement.
Boarding is complete.
Perfect, so boarding is complete. So if we have a little look outside, away go the stairs, and the door shuts as well. Okay, and one other thing we need to do in the tablet, which is quite important, you have to click this little centre of gravity button here, and that sets our takeoff trim, so click on that. So that is all done. So we're making pretty good progress. Let's head down to the FMC and continue with our pre-flight setup. So we're going to click on FMC, top left, and then we're going to click Positive on the bottom right, and if we select our GPS coordinates, top right, it'll drop it in the scratch pad and we can add it in to our POSINIT. So there we go, the plane knows where we are in the world now. And then if we click index, we can then load our SimBrief route. So we'll click that, and then you can just put your pilot ID in and press request. And there we go, so there's our flight plan loaded in. We can just clear that message there. And from there we're going to add our departure information. So if we click on the departure and arrivals button, and then Corfu, top left, and we're departing runway 16 on the Ripid 1 Bravo departure, which is just there. So we'll select that, and then we'll hit execute, and then we'll also do our arrival as it's quite a short flight, and we're flying the ILS Yankee arrival for 03 right, which is just here, with the DDM transition. And our star is the Nemes 1 Quebec, which is just here. So we'll hit that, and then we'll execute that as well. So that is our route all set up and plumbed in. So we will click on Perfinit, and then I'm going to open our SimBrief flight plan, and we want our 0 fuel weight, which is just there. So we've got 35.2 tons, so we'll add that into our 0 fuel weight. There we go. And then we want to find our FinRes plus alternate for our reserves, so we've got 2 tons there, so we'll drop that in as well. And moving up to the top right, we want our cruise altitude, which is flight level 230, so that can go in top right. Our cruise winds are 350 degrees at 33 knots, so 350/33, that can go in. And then our average ISO is 12 degrees, that can go in. Transition level is correct, 5,000 feet, so we'll hit execute, and that is our Perfinit page complete. So we are finished with the FMC for now, and what we're going to do is switch our EFIS master switches on, and there's one on the captain side here, it's this little white switch, and that switch is both the primary flight display and the nav display on, and we've also got one on the first officer's side. So again, both those can go on, and from there we'll go back down to the right to our IRS switches, which can now both go to the nav position. Okay, so back overhead then, and we're going to arm our cabin emergency lights, so they can go to the arm position, and then a little further down we're going to switch on our 4 engine anti-ice switches, which are just here, so they can all go on. And we can also switch our flight deck emergency lights on, and from there we're going to also set our landing altitude in the pressurization panel for Athens, which is 257 feet, so we'll go to the nearest 100, so 300 is set. And then the most exciting part of the entire pre-flight setup, we're uncaging our standby instruments. Nice. Back overhead we are going to switch our ice detect on, so we just unlatch that and close the cover. And a little further overhead again, and we're going to switch our no smoking signs, they can go on. And then we're going to switch our seatbelt signs on as well, which are just there. So it's all fairly familiar, but we're now going to head down to our TRP panel to set our V speeds for takeoff. So let's go down to our performance tool in SimBrief, and I'll populate it from our latest flight and hit calculate, and that's thrown back flaps 18 for our takeoff with a reduced flex thrust rating, 50 degrees flex temp, V1 134, rotate 134, V2 137. So let's add that into our TRP panel then. We need to press the toga button for our reduced thrust setting.
Cabin is secured.
That's great, cabin is secured. And then we can just wind our flex temp up to 50 as per our calculator. Then if we turn the outer dial we can set our V1, which needs to be 134 knots. So I'll just wind that all the way up to 134, and then turn the dial again to select our rotate speed. Again, that was 134. There we go. And then finally we can set our V2 at 137. Good. Okay, on to our last bit of pre-flight then, and that's to set our MCP panel. So first of all we're going to wind in our V2 speed of 137 into the speed window. Just wind that up. 137. And moving across we can also set our runway heading, which here at Corfu runway 16 is 164 degrees. So we'll wind that up to 164. A little bit further. There we go. And then finally we can set our initial climb altitude of 5,000 feet in our altitude window. There we go. And also while I'm here I'm going to switch both flight directors on, just so I don't forget to do it later basically. Okay, it is APU time, so let's get our beacon light on. Here we go. And we are now going to switch our APU gen on, which is just here. So that can go on, followed by our left inner fuel pump, that can go on, and then we're going to hit the APU start master switch. So that is our APU firing up, and we just want to monitor our RPM and our TGT dials as well, just to make sure everything's looking good. Just waiting for that RPM dial to get to 100%, so a little while to go. So that is 60%. And we're waiting for the green APU available light to come on, which is just here. So once it gets to 100%, the electric power will switch over to the APU. And there we go, APU power is available, and we can check our AC volts. That's all looking good. So we'll switch off the ground power, and we'll also go down to the tablet and remove ground power from there. There we go. And we'll also remove our chocks as well. Done. Okay, so we are ready for pushback. So GSX open, and we'll click prepare for pushback and departure, and we'll go to Aegean Airways. Just wait for the ground handling equipment to load in. Sounds good to me, mate. So I'll get the rest of our fuel pumps on. So we want left outer, right inner, right outer. So our ground crew are working away nicely. Let's take a look how they're getting on. Here comes the tug. So gear is locked. All we need to do now is choose our pushback direction when it prompts us. And we will go nose left, tail right. Copy that. Parking brakes released. Okay, let's take a look at this engine startup sequence then. We're going to go in reverse order, 4, 3, 2, then 1. So engine start selected to 4, start master switch to on, and then engine start. And it just clicks. Then we come down to our thrust levers, and we can just check the engine 4 readouts are starting to slowly creep up, and then the fuel lever goes to the fuel on position, and again we can monitor the engine 4 displays. Fuel flow is good, N2 is starting to rise along with the EGT, and then finally the N1 is also starting to rise, and that will just keep going up until it levels off at around about 25%, and that's when we've got a good engine start. And that is also sounding really promising. Let's go take a look at engine 4. Fantastic sound set, isn't it, the JustFlight. Really great work. So that's working nicely. So that is about to stabilise at 25%, so we can repeat the process for engine 3. So engine start switch to 3, and then hit engine start again, get that click sound, and down to thrust lever 3, into the fuel on position, and again monitor the N2 starting to rise, EGT now starting to go up along with the N1, and again we'll just wait for that to get to 25%. I'm just approaching 10% now. So there we go, and what I'm going to do now is speed up the video just while I repeat the process for engine 2 and 1. Okay, so we've got a good engine start for all 4 engines, so we can return the engine start select switch to the off position and switch the start master off. And let's also advise the ground crew that we've got a good engine start.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
So now it's just an exercise in extinguishing some lights. We've got some decent weather in Corfu, so the anti-ice can go off again. And we'll transfer the power over to Gen 1 and Gen 4. So the engines are supplying electrical power, and then we want to switch our brake fans onto auto, and then our engine 2 and 3 hydraulic pumps can both go on. It's looking good. And our AC pump can go to auto, and our PTU can go on. And then there's just a couple more panels we've got to take care of. We can switch all our window heats on, which are these 5 switches here. So they're all on, and then we can pop our APU air on, which is just here, and then packs 1 and 2 can go on, so the kids in the back can have some air con. And that is pretty much it. So there you have it, guys. That concludes my cold and dark quick start guide for the brilliant JustFlight RJ Professional in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Honestly, it is such a fun plane. I really recommend you give it a try. But that's it for today. Join me for part 2, where we'll continue our flight to Athens and we'll take a look at our taxi, departure and climb. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, do consider giving it a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.